Marcus and Terry with you on this Thanksgiving morning. Hope you guys are all doing good, and I hope you guys like the setup today. What we have is like a classroom style, so I can kind of write stuff down. Thought it'd be kind of fun to switch it up a little bit and test some of the stuff out here. So, if you guys can hear us okay, let us know. And today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a talk about alcohol and the ego. All right, so to make it look official, we'll write it on the board here. Alcohol and ego. Okay, ego. There we go. All right, so we're going to talk about alcohol and ego. So Terry, how you doing today? How's your Thanksgiving going so far?
I'm doing well. It's pretty cold here. I'm visiting family in the Pacific Northwest,
Cool. So you're up in Seattle or Oregon?
just south of Seattle, right,
Huh,
kind of near the airport there.
cool.
We have a beautiful view of Puget Sound. It's
Awesome.
nice.
Yeah, I've never been up that way. We lived in Portland for a while, which is funny. You
Okay.
would think we would have gone up to uh, Seattle, but we never did. So interesting stuff. Oh, let me turn Terry on so you guys can hear Terry. I think his sound is off. All right, Terry, say something. See if that sounds better.
Happy Thanksgiving again, everybody.
If you guys heard that, let me know. Type Terry in the box if you guys did hear that.
Hi, Stockton. Good to see you back.
Yep, we got Meg, we got Jupiter, we got
Yeah.
Matthew. So good to see everyone here. Awesome. Okay, so that sounds good. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do today is talk about alcohol and the ego. Now, I thought that this would be a good type of talk to have since we are all going to probably go to houses with people that we like and some people maybe not so much. I know for me, when I went to Thanksgiving, it was kind of like a giant shit show. We had a lot of people. I remember years there would be people where it would be my family members would be fighting in the street and cops would be called and people would get yelled at. And it was always, I always felt like it was very difficult to be heard. And if you wanted to be heard, you had to be loud and boisterous and aggressive and you had to shout your point, which for a lot of you guys who have made comments about the way that I talk on these, that probably sheds a little light on the way that I learned to talk. So kind of interesting, it's like, hey, you got to butt in, you got to say what you want to do. And that's kind of how it was growing up for me. And it was very difficult. And I found early on when I first started drinking, I wasn't yet a full blown alcoholic. But I would go to family meetings and I found that, hey, you know what? A couple of drinks, having wine, kind of dampened it. Sometimes I didn't care as much what people said, or I didn't care about getting my point across. However, when I crossed that line of having like one too many, which depending on the day, it could be two, it could be one, it could be seven, right? When I had the one too many, I noticed that my inhibitions were lowered, which obviously is a common thing with alcohol, and things affected me more, right? Where I could sit there normal without any alcohol, and my uncle could be like, hey, you know what? You're a total ass. And I wouldn't care. With a couple of drinks, or however many it took that day to lower that, I found that it was like, hey, you call me an ass, buddy? Let's take this to the floor or whatever. Terry, did you notice that as well, where it was like, hey, maybe drinking helped in the beginning, but later on it was kind of different? Or do you have like a family that's totally like the Brady Bunch and everyone sings songs and loves everyone?
Well, I tell you, growing up, my Thanksgivings were we have a fairly small family, and the rest of the family is back east. So we had very mellow Thanksgivings,
Mhm.
and this is I'm talking when I'm growing up until like the middle '80s, late '80s, that type of thing. And then when I moved down to California, um, we had it quickly went to very small Thanksgivings. It was just my wife and I, and then we started to kind of make our home a place for people that didn't have anywhere to go
That's
the
cool.
Thanksgiving meal. So we'd have 10, 15 people, and that was usually yeah, a drinking fest. That's really what it was all about. But it didn't. So we didn't have the family arguments or anything because it was all friends. And so when you're hanging out with your friends, you kind of have similar viewpoints on things. So you don't get into those arguments
Hmm.
so much. So the holidays were pretty good, but then as my alcoholism escalated, then it was more of I had to drink quite a bit before. people came over than during. And
Yeah.
yeah, I would get to that point. I wasn't a violent drunk, so I wouldn't say that things got aggressive or anything. But and I was home, so
Yeah.
I could get as drunk as I wanted to get.
And kick people out if they're mean. That's always a benefit. Now, let's hear from you guys. You guys listening at home or traveling or whatever you're doing, type in what it's like for you. Did you guys have a family life where it was like me, where it was like a total shit show? Put SS in the box if it was like that, or if it was pretty mellow. If you guys were like, hey, you know what? My Thanksgivings were pretty cool. Mom was in there cooking with the apron. Dad was watching the football, and we all just kind of chilled. And I know for me, even I went 2 years ago to my family, and it was funny because the family that's out on this side of the country when I moved to Florida from California is like for more. It's like the nice people, right? I got my grandma, my uncle, who was like a second dad to me, and lots of cool stuff. They're good people. But you always had like that one apple that moved out to Alabama too, the boisterous person. And that kind of threw off the dynamic. And 2 years ago, I went up to those, and it was interesting because being 2 years sober or 3 years sober going into that was a completely different experience because my ego was at check. Like it was there, and when he wanted to argue about stuff or whatever, it rose up. Like I felt it. It was like, okay, I gotta put the gloves on. Let's go. We're gonna do this. But it didn't matter as much. I was like, what do I care if like one dude cares about what I think? Like, really? Is it that important? Like, in any other circumstances, I probably wouldn't be friends with or know this person anyway. So why do I care so much? So let's take a look at the chat here. Looks like La Plata says staying sober and having recovered from alcoholism are two different things. Very true. If we've recovered, we understand that staying sober just comes with that state. State? I think. Okay.
Yes.
Do you know what he means by that? Maybe it's because I'm didn't get much sleep.
Staying sober is just part of it. It's part of recovery for
Okay.
me.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree with you, La Plata. La
Cool.
Plata Peak.
Peak. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what? I need to make these bigger because I saw La Plata Park and I was reading all wrong. So let me make this screen a little bigger. Um, so let's see. Jupiter in Motion says he was an isolated drinker. Started drinking when he moved out to ease loneliness. Okay. Terry definitely relates to that. You were
Absolutely.
very much an isolated drinker. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
that was me for sure, and I think I said it last week that I didn't like the holidays too much because that's what I had to deal with people, and that meant that I had to not drink as much as I wanted. I had to be sober enough to go deal with the people at the holiday get-togethers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, isolating was what I wanted to do, and because nobody would call me out and try and make me quit drinking, and I could keep doing what I wanted to do at that point.
Now, did you find that you craved social interaction? Because I know for me, and one of the theories I had for a long time is that the isolated alcoholic usually has an element of their life missing where it's the interaction with people that understand them, that get them, and having people around. Because I know for me it was very difficult. We were a family of four, and we just kind of kept to our own.
Right.
And I wanted that. Like sometimes even today, I'll go to meetings, even though I don't usually go regularly. Maybe I'll go once every 3 6 months or whatnot, just to like talk to people because I'm like I work at home and I do this. Was it like that for you, or did you
Well, for
have
me,
that?
it was more a matter of yeah, I craved social interaction,
Hmm.
but at the same time, I didn't want people to know I was drinking so much, and the strength of the addiction to alcohol was stronger than my craving for social interaction. So that won out, and I would isolate. That's what my choice was to isolate.
Okay. Yeah. It was kind of like that for me, but it wasn't by choice. Now, for you, what role did your ego play in your alcohol? And because what I want to look at is I want to look at two things. One is relapse. Okay, so we'll put re, and then we'll put drinking. So like here's drinking, just like as you're just drinking and you don't even care about getting sober. What role did the ego play for you when you were drinking? And if you had times where you relapsed, what role did that play as well?
I think both times it was mostly a matter of the fact that I thought I had control of it,
Okay.
even though I had all the education I needed after rehab and I started drinking again. That was my relapse.
Hmm.
But I knew that I knew before I went to rehab the first time that I once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. It's just the way it is. But I still there's a part of the disease that tells me that I have control of the drinking, and that's what it was right there, and
Okay.
that's where my ego came into play.
Okay, cool. So control on both sides is a good one because I didn't even really think of that. I was thinking more in terms of like, oh, we got this ego that's like wants to fight people, or hey, I lost my job and that's not fair or whatever. But control's a big one. That was a huge one in my life as well, where we think, when we relapse, we're like, hey, I got this. I can have one or two. But we don't
Sure.
realize that, hey, we can't. And not really can't, but you get to the point where you don't really want to anymore. Again, can't. Like if you're sitting there and you're like, shit, I got to go to Thanksgiving. There's going to be my favorite wine there. There's going to be, that concoction, whatever someone makes when they pour their alcohol in it. And everyone's going to be talking, and I'm not going to be drinking. That's really
Right.
your ego. That's your ego talking. It's
Yeah.
like, I should be able to drink just like them. And in reality, it's like, what does it really matter? What does it really matter if I can't drink at Thanksgiving? Right? And in our ego, in our brain, we have all these thoughts of, well, I might as well just sit at the kiddie table. Let's sit at the kid table because I can't drink. I can't be an adult. And that's really what our ego gets into. And did you ever feel like that where you were like, hey, you know what? I feel like an outcast. I feel like I'm not one of the guys or one of the gals or whatever because I can't drink like normal or I don't want to drink like normal or something like that.
Oh, absolutely, and that's why I would drink before I would go to things. As my alcoholism progressed, we'd go to I called them my substitute parents' house, and there'd be the Thanksgiving dinner for 25 people,
Mm-hmm.
and it was mostly family and then many friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I did feel kind of outcast there. Not that they did anything, I just felt that way. I
Yeah.
just I don't know. It was just an uncomfortable feeling, and so I would drink more and more just to push those feelings down. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because what I find is that there's several different things going on. One is your ego is like your baseline, and I don't know if you guys can read this. We might switch to like regular paper chart in the future, but your ego is like your baseline, right? And if you guys like this setup where I have this whiteboard in lecture style, let me know. I think it might be helpful because one of the things that helps me get sober is seeing things visually and seeing thoughts out and saying, hey, this is how it works. So your ego is like down here, and this is like your base level, right? This is like you wake up, and this is your protection mechanism. And it's good. It's like, hey, you know what? If there's a fire in the house, if someone wants to come in and beat me up, this ego is going to jump in and be like, no, not on my watch, buddy. I'm going to take you down because you can't come into my house and start doing whatever. You also have ego where it protects you from different social situations, different arguments, and it also wants to be right. Right? The ego is like a little child, and it's a little child in your brain, and it's like, I want to be right. And Uncle Bob can't be right. I had to say Bob, otherwise, if my family watches, they might be like, hey, why are you talking about him? It's like, well, he's kind of an ass. But at any rate, we'll call him Bob today. And your ego wants to be like, hey, I'm right. You're wrong. I want to feel this way. I want to feel that way. And it's very feeling oriented, right? And it's a base level type thing. It's like we look at it, and in our society, and in our culture, we have different things. We have our ego, which is our base. Then we have like a higher level of thinking, right? And these are different sets of consciousness, okay? And you're like, if I am conscious only of my ego, then I am in those base desires. I go to Thanksgiving and I got my ego on, and that's all that's there to protect me. And when that happens, you're going in with your gloves up, right? It's like a guy who just gets cut off on the road and you run into the back of him, and he gets out and he's like, "Hey, dude, you just damaged my car. Who the hell are you to damage my car? Who are you to not let me cut you off or whatever?" And you get all pissed off. Now, I want you to picture that you're in that car, and instead of being there and the guy yelling at you, and you get out and you're like, "Yeah, buddy, let's go. I'm in the right, you're in the wrong. Let's have a little fist fight here on the freeway." Instead, I want you to imagine you are on the way to return a winning lottery ticket. And your winning lottery ticket is like a $2 million ticket, right? You're not even going to get out of the car. You'll just be like, "Dude, here's my address. Send me a bill. Here you go. I'm on the way." You're not even going to care, right? Your ego is just going to be like, "I don't even care. I got $2 million waiting for me. Nothing matters." Okay? This is a different consciousness. And you can change, and I'm going to just put CONS because I'm not even going to try to spell consciousness without a spell checker, right? And you have your ego, but what happens is it changes. It's kind of like when I was drinking, and Terry, tell me if this kind of resonates with you. I always used to play in my mind how it was difficult to pass a liquor store, right? Like if I was on my way home and I knew there was a liquor store, I wouldn't procrastinate. I procrastinate on everything in my life. Every single thing I procrastinate. I didn't procrastinate on buying alcohol, ever.
Of course not.
And you would sit there, and it would be like, this was before I got a car that almost drives itself, right? And it would be like the car would automatically turn to the liquor store, and I'm like, who is doing this? Right? Who's doing this? And
You didn't just not procrastinate; you were proactive.
Yeah, exactly. I was like,
We made sure that we didn't run out of alcohol, and we're able to make it through the night till the liquor store opened the next day. All that, yeah, absolutely.
And it's interesting because we think of the mindset, and we think about one of the things I used to say to myself is, it'd be interesting if I was like, if I had to get home for something important, would I stop? And these are the mind games I used to play with myself was, would I stop? If it was important, I was like, I have to be home, your kids need you, your wife needs you, whatever. Would I stop for the drink? Probably not. So in and of myself, there was the way to combat that, right? The ego was like, go get the drink. You got to have the drink. You have to have 9 drinks, 10 drinks, 11, 4 isn't going to make it through the night. So it was a different consciousness, right? It was from before where it was like, hey, any liquor store on the way home, I need to stop. 2, boom, I need to get home because there's something going on, right? And it was tough. I would think about it. I'm like, could I stop? And it's like, no, dude, you would be a total jerk if you stopped and got something to drink because you need to be home right now. Does that make sense, or did you ever think that way?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
alcohol was a priority, and yeah, very rarely did something else come ahead of the alcohol. But usually, the alcohol was involved in every decision that I made, no matter how important it was.
Yeah.
I was absolutely proactive in
Yeah,
making
me
sure I had
too.
alcohol.
Now, did you notice that? Like, did you ever think about the difference between the consciousness? Like, okay, let's say I'm driving home and I got this plan and I'm going to stop at the liquor store and I need something to drink, but I got to get to the hospital because maybe my wife's in the hospital or something like that. And your consciousness changes from like, hey, ego, got to get the drink to, wow, I got to get to the hospital. That's first on the list.
That has happened when certain important events came up. Dog has to go to emergency or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But it was always a dilemma because I constantly had this thought of what if something super important happens, and I'm drunk and I can't drive to wherever I need to go or whatever. So it was a ongoing dilemma, part of the insanity that alcoholism produces. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because what I look at is the fact that everyone here, including ourselves, had the ability to stay sober before we got sober because it's a consciousness shift. Like if we look at it, so again, like the title of the video, we got to stick to the title. I know everyone's like, you should title your video, so we'll try to stick to it. I will. It's my bad. But the ego here, when we look at it, it's kind of like when you get in a fight with someone, right? Because you'll go to Thanksgiving or you'll go to whatever, and someone will argue with you, and being right or being yelled at or getting in an argument, for me, was a big reason to drink. Like I would go to these things and I would go, maybe 2 beers in, and I was like, this is cool. I'm gonna make it through the day having 2 beers. What a good little guy. Pat myself on the hat or on the head. And something would happen, and I'd get in an argument, and I'd be like, that's it. It's go time. Now it's time to get drunk because I had the argument. And I look at it, and it's because I'm trying to feed the ego. I'm trying to look at the ego, and I'm like, well, that guy doesn't know a thing or two, or he can't say that, or I can't say this. Or another thing was living up to social expectations, living up to the role that I played in life. For example, me, I have an internet business. A lot of people know me as internet success business person. And back then, I would literally feel like if I had a bad year and I went to Thanksgiving, I couldn't let anyone know. I had to keep this persona of, hey, I'm the business guy. I'm always successful. I always have money. Yay. And if I didn't have it, I was trying to hide that down. Therefore, I would have to drink more. Does this resonate with anyone? Type resonate in the box if that resonates. If you feel that way, where it's like, hey, sometimes I feel that way. Like maybe I go to Thanksgiving and me and my husband are putting on a show because really I'm an alcoholic and he wants to leave me, or really he's an alcoholic and we're fighting. And you have this and it's like, oh, don't show that face. And what I'm saying isn't go put all your dirty laundry on the table. I'm saying get the ego out of the way and be comfortable where you're at. Be comfortable knowing, hey, this is my role today. This is where I'm at in life. It might not be the perfect painted picture, but who does, right? I know Instagram and Facebook, everyone's life is perfect except mine. But you look at it, and everyone's got their own little shit show going on. Everyone's got their own stuff.
Of
and
course.
What we need to do is change our consciousness, right? Change our consciousness from I'm the ego, I'm in it. Because this is like the trenches, right? If we were to draw like little trenches and there's like the army guy peeking out and he's like, hey, we got to protect. And yes, that is a trench in an army guy. Don't judge my drawings, right? And we have that, and it's like, hey, he's in the trenches. He's ready to fight. He's got to protect. He's like, you got to look this way. Now, if you change your consciousness, and what happened for me when I got sober is my consciousness changed, and now I don't care. Like, I'm at a point in my life where I really, truly don't care what my family or other people really think. And it's not in a way of like, oh, F the haters kind of thing. Like, I don't care about that, because saying, screw the haters, I'm going to do what I want, is ego. It's like, screw you guys. That's not what it's about. It's about looking at it and saying, I truly don't care, because I'm at a place in my life where it doesn't matter. I'm at a place in my life where I don't have to be right. I don't have to argue, because I really don't care. Like, I'm probably not going to change your mind. You're probably not going to change mine. What's the point? Right? Does that make sense? Were you ever like that, where you found the shift in consciousness from like fight or flight ego?
Oh, absolutely. And that happened, right away when I got sober. And then I had to work on my sobriety and develop tools. La Plata talks about the only inspiration I can offer is based on my experience before getting something bigger in my life other than myself. Doing what's suggested in steps 4 through 9 and helping others is what's kept me here. For me, that's very true, as well as developing the humility and smashing that ego. It's a very important thing to develop in sobriety, is trying to control that ego. We all have an ego. We all put on that face when we're going to Thanksgiving dinner with all the family that we haven't seen, or going to the 25th high school reunion, whatever, or the Facebook persona that we try to put across. And it's a matter of trying to approach life with humility and helping other people, as La Plata suggests, is it's a huge thing, because it makes us realize that we're a lot more similar to everyone else in this world than we think, and that it helps keep that ego under control. I did want to say, THC Gamer, good job. I remember seeing you last week on 29 days sober. That's great. Good job.
Awesome.
And yeah, lots of people on here making some great comments.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll get we'll scroll through them in a little bit. Let me get my mouse ready. If there's any that really stand out, pull them out, and we'll go through those in a little bit. But yeah, that's an interesting thing because it's just like we look at how we feel and what we want, and the ego is the person who wants to drink, right? It's like it's the person that's going to say "F it all, screw it, who cares," right? It's the one that's going to make you relapse. And if we look at that, and instead of trying to fight it, we just realize it's there, and we laugh at it, and we're like, "Hey, you know what? Yeah, I do want to argue with Uncle whatever with about whatever. I would like to jump it. Yeah, I would like to put this persona." And it's kind of like what I tell my kids because sometimes they'll get anxiety and they're like, I feel like people are thinking about me or talking about me or looking at me or whatever. And I always tell them, I'm like, no one's really thinking about you or like obsessing about you or, how's her hat, how's her hair, how's her outfit, whatever. They're not thinking about you because they're too worried about other people thinking about them. And the point of that is to say that everyone is going through the same thing, whether we admit it or not, right? And it's funny because in life, we really have to get to a point where we admit, hey, we're just winging it. Like,
Right.
no matter what we do, we're just winging it. We're just trying things. We're just going through it. And when we accept that, it's the most freeing thing. I know for me, it's like, yeah, I could sit up here and I could say, well, I have this alcohol channel and every week people watch me and Terry's got this alcohol. And we could look at this and say, well, I got it all going. I'm the expert. Or I could look at it and be like, you know what? I'm just a drunk like you. And for whatever reason, I've been able to stay sober for almost 5 years. And I'm going to share those reasons. And you know what? I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know how life's going to be. I could sit here and I could act like I have it all figured out, but I really don't. I just know a few things that make me not drink, right? And being able to say that is like, you know what? We're all in the same boat together. And if we get our ego out of the way and we say, I don't have to protect this persona of the alcohol guy or the money guy or, I don't know if Terry ever had like the chef guy or whatever persona, but sometimes you do, like you get it, and it's like, I can cook that better than you, this punk doesn't even know what he's doing, but it's like, whatever. I cook food, you cook food, yay.
Yeah, my chefing industry definitely does get the egos.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that I never got that ego, but maybe I did.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, but in alcohol, the egos they definitely take a big part of alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Cool.
But um, going up to some of the comments here.
Yeah, let's take some of those. Let me make it bigger.
Well, I'm kind of well. Here we go. Real Talk says, "I care about myself more today. I actually love life, and I want to be part of. I want to be present." And that's a huge comment right there, as far as just staying present, living today for what it is, and loving life. I'm up here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. I get to visit family. I used to avoid family when I was drinking. I would come up here for holidays, but I would spend an hour visiting family. That's about it, and go back to the hotel room and drink.
Mm-hmm.
And today I get to be part of it, and and it's my dad is in the later part of his life, and I get to spend the time with him and have fun with him. I made him laugh a whole bunch of times yesterday. It was quite fun. Had a good day.
That's awesome.
But that's the kind of thing we get to do in our sobriety.
Yep. And it's cool because it's like, put all the labels aside. And I know there's a big stigma. Like, do I go to Thanksgiving and say I'm an alcoholic? What are people going to think? Well, you don't have to say whatever you don't want to say. And you know what? You don't even owe anyone a reason for the fact you're not drinking.
That's
And
right.
you know what? You can even make up a reason and be like, whatever, I don't drink because my gout or whatever, I don't drink because, I just don't like what you guys have, or flip it and be like, I don't drink this peasant stuff or whatever. I mean, whatever you want to do, I wouldn't go the ego route, but whatever you want to do, the ball's in your court.
Yeah.
And what I find is interesting is I thought that sobriety was going to take away my power, right? And we learn this. Did you realize you're powerless over alcohol? And what happens is we're like, We think we got to be like, oh man, I'm powerless. I am just a weak little nothing, and alcohol is going to come and kick my ass. And one day I'll be rocking down the street, and the bar is going to jump out on the sidewalk, and it's going to pour itself on me, and I'm going to be drunk. And that's kind of what we think. It's like, oh, poor me. I'm this and I'm that. But really, being an alcoholic and admitting you're an alcoholic and understanding what that means gives you more power than you've ever had in your life, because now I'm like, hey, you know what? I have power in being powerless, if that makes sense. Um,
That's right. I found I have a lot more power now that I'm sober. Definitely.
yeah, cool. Cool. Let's take a couple others, because I know we're probably going to get quite a few questions today.
Well, I got one
Um,
here from another one from La Plata. I think
okay.
that's what makes me jealous of the normies more than anything. Their egos can't get them killed as easily as ours can. And yeah, that that's true. You ever drive I sometimes I think when I'm driving my car, I'm like, that person needs a sobriety program. They need to work on their humility, or
Yeah.
just in the checkout line at Safeway or anywhere going through life. I see that and that's my own judgment, and that's where I have to push my ego down and
Mm-hmm.
realize I'm not better than them. They may have something going on in their life, and I need to try to look at things from their perspective and just worry about what I'm doing and try to be the best person I can be. La Plata has a lot of great comments through here, and I don't know if you're a he or a she, but either way, you mentioned that you're 12 years sober, and that's great, and you're giving a lot of great comments. And those of you without much sobriety, please give your comments. I learn from people with 1 day of sobriety to people with all the way up to 30, 40 years of sobriety. Everybody has something to add here, so we
Yeah.
appreciate your comments.
Yeah, and we're all really just winging it. Technically, we're all on day one, because
Yep.
all I can do is worry about today. Like, I can't worry about tomorrow. And I was listening to something earlier last night. I was up till like 3:30, couldn't sleep, and I was listening to something out on the deck, and he was talking about like how in our lives, even if you're thinking about the past, you can only think of the past right now. You can only think of the future right. Like, no matter what you do, you're in this moment. And if you take that moment and you say, this is where I'm at, this is all I have, which is right now, and you just exist and be, whether you like have to do the dishes, right? Do the dishes with a grateful heart, saying, you know what? I got to do the dishes because we have food. That's cool. As before, I'd be like, I got to do the damn dishes. These other people should be doing the damn dishes. I made the damn food. They should. Instead, it's like, hey, I got to feed people. I got this. It's about shifting your consciousness and being grateful, right? Thanksgiving's about being grateful. I know the past origins of it are not that good, but what we celebrate today is about being grateful. What are you grateful for? I'm grateful, above all things, that I'm alive and that I'm sober. Because if I didn't have sobriety, I probably wouldn't be alive. That's the way my life was headed. And I'm also thankful that no matter what, I can just be whoever I want to be. And I don't have to live up to what society thinks I am. I don't have to live up to this person. I don't have to win every argument. I don't have to be the big badass at wherever I go. Not that I am. I'm like 5 feet tall. So those of you who know me, you probably got that joke. Um, but, I don't have to. And I want you guys to think about what you're grateful for. Change your consciousness from, oh, I'm going to go talk to all these annoying people, if that's the case with your family, or happy people or whatever. Maybe you're mad that they're happy. I know some people are mad at happy people. But we got to look at that, and we got to say, you know what, I'm going to change my consciousness, and I'm going to live from a place of gratitude. And what happens is when you live from gratitude, the ego gets set aside. Because, like, I don't need to fight. I don't need
Absolutely.
to win. I don't need to be right. I don't need to get mad. I don't need to show you who's boss, because it doesn't matter. And it's funny because my wife is very big on right and wrong and fair and just. And sometimes I look at it, because before sobriety, I'd do a business thing and something would go bad, and I'd be like, that SOB he screwed me over, blah, blah. Now I'm like, whatever. Whatever. I hope he does well because I'm doing good. It didn't really change my life all that much that the guy backed out of a deal, right?
Right.
And in the grand scheme of things, what am I really grateful for? And we look at things and we're like, hey, I was telling someone the other day, I'm like, if you can't be happy in a small house, you're probably not going to be happy in a big one. That's
Yes.
not the problem. Like, I remember years ago, my wife was like, oh, these damn stairs. And we had a house with big, steep stairs. It's damn stairs. These damn. I'm like, okay, we'll get a house without stairs. This damn rug, the damn dog, and you're going to find something. But if you live from a place of grateful, hey, I got walls, I got a roof, I got a heater. Well, I don't have a heater. In Florida, our heater doesn't work, which we don't really need it except for like 2 days, but at any rate. I got food, I got family, I got the ability to speak my mind. In some countries, certain genders or certain ethnicities can't speak their mind. If you have that here in America, that's something to be grateful for, you know?
Yes. We get to do so many things in our life. Absolutely.
Exactly. All right, let's take some more comments here. I don't know how you are on time, or I think we have, about 20 minutes left or so?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. All right, let's see if we missed any of these. Do-do-do-do. Looks like we got a new guy on here, Real Talk Recovery. Good to see you here. And good to see you're in recovery also. I think he said he was 3 years sober, so that's awesome. Um, Sachin says, God is a thought. God is beyond thought. The question is, can we go beyond thought? Well, here's the deal. One of the things I look at is the fact that my thoughts aren't really my own. Okay, my thoughts were formed by society, by culture, by language, right? If you don't believe that your thoughts aren't your own, just tell yourself, my words aren't my own. Someone else made up every single word I'm speaking right now. Therefore, they're not my thoughts, right? If I would have come up with language, it probably would have sounded a lot cooler. But we got to look at that. We're like, wow, we really do live beyond thought. We just use thought to bring it into our world and explain it, if that makes sense. Did that make sense?
Yeah, but for me, I try to keep things simpler than that. I don't try to overanalyze my sobriety. I try to do what you've already been talking about, which is try to stay humble,
Mm-hmm.
try to help other people, like this webinar today that we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and don't drink one day at a time. It's really I try to keep it that simple,
Okay.
and that's what's helped keep me sober. I try to stay open minded as I possibly can
Mm-hmm.
to anybody's opinions and anybody's suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be honest as I can throughout the day, not just to other people, but to myself. And I try to be willing to do whatever it takes to stay sober and not just be willing to do it, but actually do what I need to do to stay sober.
Mm-hmm.
And that's there's lots of tools that we have on talksober.com that I follow,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what generally keeps me sober.
That's good because it's simple and it works.
Yeah,
And
I've worked with a lot of people and have dealt with a lot of, and I myself have been an over analyzer and tried to analyze why I may have why I became a heavy drinker. And I've thought about, like, a lot of people say it's to push down their feelings or quench their anxiety or things like that. And sure, I could probably say that was partially the case for me, but is that really why I became an alcoholic? I don't know. I really don't have that answer. And I've given up trying to analyze that reason.
mm-hmm.
The fact is that I'm an alcoholic and that I have to do whatever it takes to stay sober. So that's what I try to concentrate on, is what I'm doing going forward. And keep in mind what I did in the past so I don't fall into those bad habits that are destructive.
Yeah. And it's interesting too because what's happening is you're just changing consciousness. You're
Right.
sitting there and you're like, okay, I'm going from ego, because the ego wants to figure shit out. Why did I
Yeah.
drink? Why did I do that? My shoes are too tight. When you change your consciousness and you're like, well, does it really matter? Can I just be? Like,
Yes.
what if I just sat here and when I was sad, I didn't drink, I was just sad?
Right.
Like, I don't think the tears are like poisonous and are going to kill me. I don't think like the face, it doesn't feel good to feel sad. But hey, you know what? It's part of life, and maybe that's okay. Maybe it's okay to be sad. Maybe it's okay to be vulnerable. Maybe it's okay to get your feelings hurt. Maybe it's okay to just live with your emotions without having to drink. Because what I see is oftentimes a alcoholic myself. I'll speak from my experience. Um, was that I postponed everything. Like
Right.
I was going through it. I was stewing over it. Why was this like this? Why did this happen to me? Why was I abused? Why was I this? And I never really was able to move through it because it was like I was going here and I felt these things and then I'd drink and the block wall would come up and it'd be like, you can't get better because now you're drinking to shut them off. Now
Right.
drinking makes it worse and whatever. And then 3 years later, I'm in the same exact place and I can't move from point A to healing because I keep shutting it off with drinking, right? It's like you're trying to fill this bucket of water and you got this bucket and you're like, I'm going to turn the faucet on. All right, here we go. We're going to fill it up. We're going to fill it up, turn it off. And it's like, well, you only got like 2 ounces in a giant bucket. And then you come back again and you're like, okay, we'll do it again. It turned off. And then 20 years down the road, you're like, I still only have like a quarter of the bucket filled. And the bucket is your healing, right? And in our life, this is what's happening with drinking is we're stopping ourselves from healing because we're so afraid of feeling the things that will make us heal. And we're so afraid of just being and saying, you know what? That is sad. I do miss that person. I did love that person. I did screw that up. I did, have these problems. And we got to look at that and say, you know what? I think today I'm just going to feel it. I think today I'm just going to sit with my anxieties. And so what? Right? Like
It's
today,
okay. Yeah.
I still have anxieties. I went to a therapist the other day, and I was really anxious. And I was like, okay, probably because I had a little bit too much Diet Coke, which has caffeine. Probably because I shocked my system and I started going to the gym again. So there's a lot of reasons, and probably because I'm at therapy, and that's the most like anxiety thing in the world. But we look at it, and it's like, let's just start feeling the things that are going to make us heal, and let's change our consciousness instead of saying, you know what, F you, I'm going to go drink. Oh, I'm going to show that guy a thing or two. I'm going to the damn bar. What did you show him? You showed him that you're an alcoholic is what you showed him. It didn't really help anything. And you could just sit there and make it work. All right, let's take a couple others here and see what's going on. A lot of talk about God. God is an interesting topic in alcohol, and especially at the dinner table here in America. I think God is whatever your consciousness says God is for you. Right? That's pretty much what it is. And it's interesting because I used to be a preacher. I used to be a very staunch preacher, on the street corner kind of preacher. And I thought I had God all figured out. And I realized that was ego. Because the minute you have God figured out is the minute you have become him. If I know everything about what God is, then I might as well be God because I got it all figured out. And I find that it helps to say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that book has it or this book has it. I don't know if my mind has it. But I do know this. I'm not God. That I do know. And the ego is going to say, well, you are the God of your universe. You are the God of your job and the God of your car and the God of your house. And damn it, that's what it's going to say. But really, I mean, how does that work in your sobriety, the whole God thing?
Well, I have a God in my life, but what I try to tell people is, whatever your belief is, it's okay. You can get sober. What I suggest that people do is to stay open-minded, to any new concepts. It's okay if you're a complete atheist or whatever, but just try to stay open to different concepts as to that um, you're not the higher power. The second you think you're the higher power is when you may be getting into trouble. Even if your higher power is other people that have been sober for longer than you, and their higher power isn't ultimate. It's just the fact that they may have some tools that you don't have right now that can help you get and stay sober.
Mhm.
So that's it. Is being open minded. Really,
Yeah.
that's what I feel, and that's not just for a higher power, but that's for everything in sobriety. Is that you just need to do these things that you haven't done before
Mhm.
to get
And
there.
I think the key also is looking at where the ego really plays, because I find the danger in I can't be wrong. Because when I used to be a preacher, I couldn't be wrong. I know exactly what it says it in the book. That's what this is. And I was like, I can't be wrong. And they're like, what if you're reading it wrong? I'm not. It's in the book. There it is right there, plain as day. And if you can't be wrong, you're setting yourself up for trouble.
Right.
I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. I could like be at the end of my life and it's like, oh, there was a big dude up there with a beard sitting on a cloud with a laptop. I was wrong. Hopefully it's not an Apple. Hopefully it's a PC. But we have that and we're like, hey, that's the way our mind works. And when you look at that and you're like, I'm free. I might be wrong. I don't have all the answers. Right? And when you think you have all the answers, you are setting yourself up for so much trouble. So much trouble because we don't know. Right? I got my political views. I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong. I was before. I found out a different view, and maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'll go back again, and I doubt it, but maybe. And we look at that and we're like, here's what we want to do. That's what we got to look at. Okay? And we got to focus on it. And whatever you believe, that's cool. Just be okay with, I could be wrong. Could be. Maybe, maybe not. And it's kind of like this idea of zero sum thinking, where it's like, how do I start my day and my life with a zero sum thinking? Right? You could stress yourself. You could be like, I am such a freaking good alcoholic. I go to all the meetings. I do everything right. I've read the big book 67 times, cover to cover. I could quote 5 chapters without even looking. I got this. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe, maybe not. Your ego says, oh, I got it. Right? I'm Marcus. I read books. I do book. I got a YouTube channel, but I'm not going to. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. And I think in life you have to live in the uncertainty, to accept the uncertainty. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't even control whether I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I can't control whether I'm going to take the next breath. I can't control what's going to happen in our environment. I can't even get a politician who I voted for to vote the way I want. I can't even do that. And I'm supposed to be able to do that in democracy, but apparently I can't. But looking at so little you control and so little, my brain knows nothing. Like, if this is all the knowledge in the world, right? I'm going to go out on a limb and really, really, really exaggerate and say this is how much Marcus knows. And that's exaggerating. Of all the knowledge in the world, that's how much I know. And if you guys can't see that, it's as light as I could have touched with this. And that's probably over exaggerating. And if we're honest with ourselves, we don't know. We just don't know. I hope that helps you guys. I know for me, it really, really helped me because it brings this relief of, I don't have it all figured out. I don't know, which brings us back to the beginning of the talk. I don't know. And when I say I know, my ego, I'm right. I read the books. I'm on the street corner preaching. Maybe I know, maybe I don't. Maybe
Right.
there's hell, maybe there isn't. Maybe my view's right, Maybe Donald Trump's right. Okay. We won't go that far, but we look at that. We got to have humor, right? But we look at that and it's like, hey, I don't know. I don't know. And when you go to your Thanksgiving and when you go to people and you're uncomfortable, use those magic words. I don't know. Well, come on, you got to have an opinion. I really don't. I haven't researched it enough. I don't know, right? And just giving up and giving in to that. I don't know. So, yeah, hopefully that helps. My little rant on I don't know anything.
No, you make complete sense. And
Cool.
for me, I have my opinions on things,
Mm-hmm.
higher power, politics, all that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I try to do is I try to live the way I feel I should live, and that's it's. Once again, I'm trying to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Just do the right thing, do the right, help other people.
Yeah.
Um, try not to do those. Try not to make the mistakes. But when I make the mistakes, fix them right away. And that seems to be the what's worked for me so far in my sobriety, and that's what I continue to try to do on a daily basis.
Awesome. And it works. And I find it all starts from the place you wake up. When you wake up, if you decide you're going to be grateful today, be grateful
Yes.
today. If you wake up and you're like, oh, shit, the covers came off and I was cold and I didn't sleep well and life sucks, that's how your consciousness is going to go for that day.
And you know
And
that and I want to make sure that people realize the importance of the gratitude that you talked about it quite a bit earlier, and then you just mentioned it right here. It's huge. And any of you that haven't tried um, working on your gratitude, is just try it every morning. You don't even have to write it down. Think about 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for today. Try to make them different every day, and try that for a week. See if that changes your attitude. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? You stop doing your gratitude list next week? Okay, but try it. I guarantee you, it's going to make a difference in your life. It's going to make a difference in the way you approach your day. Gratitude's huge. It's a great way to start.
definitely. All right, let's take a couple other last minute questions. If you guys have anything big, if you're worried about something today, going to the holidays, whatever it is, if you have something that you want to bring up before we end the call, let us know, and we'll take a look at that. And happy Thanksgiving to all the people who said happy Thanksgiving. Same to you.
Happy Thanksgiving. I could
Um,
go over a quick list of 10 things for holidays
cool. Yeah, let's
to,
do it.
if you guys would like that. First of all, be prepared as far as when you're going to whatever you're going to do today. Be prepared with how you're going to answer when somebody starts. They want to hand you that drink or whatever. Have your answer ready to go. La Plata said earlier, no, thank you. When I drink alcohol, I break out in handcuffs. Maybe that one, maybe not, but I've used that one before. That's a pretty good one. But be prepared. Number 2, remind yourself why staying sober is important to you. Do that before you start your day here, and it's important to know why you're taking your sobriety seriously right now. If you have holiday parties, I'm sure you're already committed if you're going to something today, but it's Thanksgiving usually isn't necessarily a big party, but sometimes it is. But choose your holiday parties over these next couple of weeks wisely. If it's just a drink fest at a place, at a bar it's just all about drinking, maybe you ought to think twice about going to that. And if you do go to these places, think of an escape route. Like, so you drive yourself so you can get out when you need to. I like to show up on time to parties, and I leave a bit early. It's just what I do. It's the easiest thing for me to do. They understand. Usually the hosts know I'm sober, so they completely understand. Stay away from those slippery places. I kind of mentioned that before, but yeah, those the bars and where there may be some dangerous things going on that may jeopardize your sobriety. Be careful overeating, because overeating, you might feel it might make you feel bad about yourself, and then you get the what they call the F-its, and then maybe you think a drink might be not be a bad idea.
It's a good point.
Um, Number seven is spend time with people who support your recovery. So yeah, hanging out with people that I'm sure if you're in sobriety, I'm sure you're with people or at least in contact with people that are sober, and they can at least steer you in the right direction, maybe to a sober holiday get together or something like that. One thing that we find hard is the old traditions we used to do during the holidays, where we do this and it would involve drinking. So maybe starting a new tradition like Thanksgiving hike before dinner, or Thanksgiving evening walk after dinner that maybe you didn't do before. Something that doesn't involve alcohol. And then, of course, they always mention exercise. I exercise as much as I can. That's always helpful. There's a walk again, and then last but not least, what we've already mentioned is the spirit of gratitude and giving, and just showing the love, being there for the family. So there's 10 quick tips. There's many more, but those are some good ones to go to and try to keep in mind as you go through these holidays. And we'll talk more each week as we're getting closer and closer to Christmas and all those Christmas parties that we have to go to, right?
Yeah. And another thing, too, is have a plan to get away.
Yep.
Have a plan if things get heated. So, like right now, some people are going at it in the comments about whether God is a certain God or a different God or whatever. I'm trying not to pay attention, but I'm watching a little bit. And things could get heated. And the reason they get heated is our ego. God's not the way you think he is, it's the way I think it is. And really, if we're honest with ourselves, I think the reason our ego gets hurt is because we really don't want to admit that we don't know. I don't know. So have a way to pull back and have a way to get out of it. Because it's like, here you were doing fine, listening to this talk. Everything's good. You're learning about sobriety. And all of a sudden, your heart rate goes up. You start to feel things, and you're like, you're not going to tell me a thing or two about what I know about God. You're not going to tell me a thing about what I don't know about God, or blah, 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 blah. And it's a fight, and everything happens, and it can escalate so quick. And if you don't have an escape plan, like, I respectfully step out. That's cool. And you know what? I respect your opinion. And let's leave it at that. And I'm good. And if you do that at Thanksgiving, when the politics come up, when the religion comes up, which, by the way, that's basically what Thanksgiving is at my family, is a big politics, religion discussion. And it's not fun. It's not a discussion. It's more like a bantering whatever.
Yeah.
You just back up. You back up and you're like, you know what? That's cool. Or, hey, I don't know. What do you think about this guy? What do you think about that? I don't know. I'm not an economist. I have no idea. I didn't even pass algebra in high school. I don't know. I couldn't get 2 plus 2. How am I going to fix the economy? Right? What about this? I don't know. Right? Or my opinion. Or here's another one. This is really good. I learned this from Robert Anton Wilson. Total crackpot. Good to listen to. He says this idea of, I forget the name, is some kind of way of speaking. And it's a way of speaking that is ultimate truth. So if you took it from, I think God's this way, you say, well, according to my current understanding of the world, it appears this opinion is right. What if you changed it? What if we started talking like that? According to what I understand about economics, I feel the country should go in this direction. I could be wrong, but according to who's going to argue, oh, you dick? They're not going to say that. They'll be like, I give up. The dude's not going to fight because he doesn't know, right? And we got to look at that, and we got to focus, and we got to be like, hey, there you go. There you go. According to my current system of belief, this is how I feel. According to my knowledge of the world, I think I'm right. Put yourself there. According to my experience, according to everything I know, my entire giant genius brain, I'm being joking. According to that, That's what you know right there. Does that make sense to anyone? I hope it helps. That has changed my life by knowing that because I used to be right. Now I'm happy.
Right.
There you go. So, all right. Any other anyone standing out there that we should take care of before we head out and make turkeys? I want
Uh,
Terry's turkey. That dude can cook.
you know what's funny is I'm a professional chef and I'm going to my brother's for Thanksgiving, so it'll be done for me. Although
There
I
you go.
did cook some nice, up here in the Pacific Northwest, we they do the Copper River salmon, and that's what I cooked last night.
Mm-hmm.
It came out pretty good. Did a little bit of Asian style, but you got to go a little different before Thanksgiving. My brother would be cooking today.
Cool. Yeah, I think my wife helps cook on the holidays. I usually cook during the year, and then I'll do like the gravies and the little sauces and stuff. But she likes to put the turkey in. We did a brine, which was
Great.
good.
That's a great way to do it.
Yeah, and it's good. Now I find that sometimes the turkeys don't give off enough juices for the gravy. What's the secret for that? We'll give you guys a cooking secret here. So
The secret. Oh well. In the hotels we make a stock from the bones.
yeah, we
So
did that last night with the neck and the little stuff that's inside.
perfect. I think the key is with turkey is not overcooking it.
Mhm. Yep.
All the news is they're all over telling you to cook it to 165 internal temperature, and
Yeah.
I would disagree with that. But in the full, uh, in not in to not disclose the way that it should be cooked to, I usually don't go to 165 degrees when I cook it.
Disclaimer: go to Butterball's site.
That's
Second
right. That's
disclaimer:
right. Thank you,
if
Marcus.
if you need to,
But
yeah. So, but watch that now. And again, with everyone arguing, guys, is it really worth it?
yeah, everybody, it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to my brother's house. He's a very, very opinionated person, and I'm going to have a good time, and we're going to have a nice day of gratitude. And even though I'm the professional chef, his food's going to be great no matter what. And let's do that, everybody.
Awesome. So, let's see. The best way to cook a turkey is to cook a pork chop instead.
There you
Pork
go.
chops are okay. I can't cook a lot of pork because it messes with my wife and my daughter's stomach. So, but my favorite pork, I'll give you guys this tip, is Jamaican jerk pork tenderloin.
Okay.
What you do is you fill your pot with soy sauce, like maybe 2 jars of it, with those big ones. Um, put a little pineapple juice in there, a little bit of water, put some corn starch in it so it thickens, and then get a big hunk of Jamaican jerk seasoning. Throw it in there, do it to taste because you might not like it as spicy as I do, and then let it thicken, marinate it, barbecue it to like a medium rare. Man, it's good. Serve it with fruit. Now I'm hungry.
I would like
Yeah.
to do a prime rib. Down in San Francisco area where I'm from, a lot of people are doing crab because that season just opened.
What I miss here in Florida is cioppino.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately for me, like my kids like it, but I like to make it really spicy, but not overpowering spicy. And so not that many people eat it. So I end up with like 5 gallons of gumbo because that's one thing I didn't learn is how to portion stuff. Clearly,
Oh yeah.
obviously with my alcohol, I didn't learn that either. But yeah, cioppino is
And
good.
we're
But
we're way
here,
off topic, but I have to tell you, Sachin, Indian food is some of my favorite. One of my favorites is chicken tikka masala with onion kulcha. Love that stuff.
I like tandoori, but it's
Yes.
very difficult to find a restaurant that doesn't dry it out. Very difficult. Now, up in the Bay Area, I had a lot more luck. Here, they have like Indian buffets, and they're kind of like dried out by the time. Even if you order it from the place and tell them to make it, it's still kind of dry. So I try to make it on my own. I have a tandoori pot. It is so hard to get that thing up to heat. It is like impossible to get it up to heat. But at any rate, we definitely are off topic. I will give you one last thing. For those of you who love life and love food, do yourself a favor, get the leftovers, and make a turkey gumbo. Best thing, that's like why I have Thanksgiving, is so I can make a turkey gumbo the next day. But yeah. All right, cool. So stay sober, check your ego, forget about it, get in a different consciousness. Do what you have to do to get in the consciousness. For me, I listened to a tape on the way to the Thanksgiving. Listen to the tape. Get yourself in the mindset. Think about it. Think about it. Get in the mindset. Then when you go there, you're going to be on cloud nine. It's like I heard a Zen teacher. He's like, well, what is it like to attain Zen or enlightenment or whatever you want to call it? He's like, it's exactly like normal life, but you're 2 inches off the ground. And that's what's going to happen. If you fill your brain with this stuff, you're going to go in there, you'll be like, dude, I just listened to this talk, or I just read this thing, and my mind is in a place. You could tell me I'm wrong. You could tell me I'm right. I don't even care. It doesn't even matter because I'm 2 inches off the ground. And for me, that means I'm 5'3" if I'm 2 inches off the ground, which is good. Extra plus. So hopefully that helps. Any last minute thoughts for everyone, Terry?
Try to stay sober and check your ego, you guys, and then just live today with love, gratitude.
Yep.
Happy
Awesome.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Have a good holiday. We will see you next week, 11 a.m., Thursday, Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for watching. Check out our other videos. If it helps you to make it through the day watching these videos, I know some people get a lot of help. Take them with you on your phone. Just remember youtube.com/talksober or talksober.com. Watch the videos. Get in the mind. Don't answer the phone on live shows. And we'll see you next time.